Okay, great to have you here, Lauri. Today in the show, we're gonna go focus now on two different Latin American food technology companies. The other one is from Chile, and the other one is from Colombia. Let's start with the first deck from Chile. I'm gonna share the screen over here, and little by little, we're gonna start scrolling it through. And the main thing is that are you able to understand it? Are you gonna get excited throughout the process?
Yeah.
So here
See,
we have Aquit from Chile. They offer biotech solutions for sustainable aquaculture. Here we're seeing that is
that's
already
already
interesting.
interesting.
Ah, I
That's
love
already
that.
interesting.
So even the first
Yeah,
sentence is already
aquaculture is growing insanely. And it's anything but sustainable. So any solutions for that is already
I like that a lot.
exciting.
So like immediately you're excited a little bit over there. And now they're starting to go about their problem. Um Antibiotic resistance, 1 million deaths a year.
Now, is that animals? Is that fish or humans? That's a bit
Unclear for the time being.
uh, unclear. But sure, antibiotic resistance is a problem and hugely caused by the use of antibiotics in animal husbandry, including aquaculture. So
There
there's
is
a
a
connection.
connection. Then we
See
start
that?
going towards the solutions. Okay, they have identified and produced a key protein that activates salmon's immunity. This protein from the own fish fits perfectly the complex immune mechanisms as the missing piece in the puzzle.
So basically, this is vaccination for salmon. That's how I'm reading this, which is interesting. I mean, giving pills for fish is slightly tricky because they're swimming in water. Uh, um, Sort of taking care of the diseases when you have a lot of fish in one cage is problematic. So sure, interesting. Um, yeah, activating the immunity
It's
is
a
a bit
big.
vague. I mean, it could mean everything or
And
nothing.
that is perhaps that we can find that a little bit more answers over here further on in the deck. But
Yeah.
okay, we go towards a preventive treatment, improving yields,
Huh.
augments animal welfare, and replaces antibiotics. Any thoughts?
I mean, preventive treatment is always good. I mean, it's good to prevent problems before you have them. Problem is, how do you commercialize that? I mean, it's easy to sell a solution if you already have a
Yeah.
problem, right? But selling some preventive is a bit more tricky. Um, Sort of improving welfare is also slightly fluffy thing. So, I mean, how much to improve? Do you actually see an improved yield? So, do you see more kilos coming out of your cage? That's the interesting question for
Yeah.
the producer. And replacing antibiotics. I mean, if you can treat a disease with that, then it would replace
Hmm.
antibiotics. So, let's see further. I mean, how?
And here they're trying to claim why are they better? They improve natural immunity, avoiding the harmful inflammatory process, and offer a natural immunity boost.
Okay, so the idea is to boost the salmon's or the fish own immunity to battle whatever pathogen there might be. Um, it's again a bit fluffy. I mean, you could. I mean, there's many kinds of things that we or salmon could eat that would improve their
Mm,
immunity. Many kinds of things that could be added to their feed that are making them slightly more, making their immune system slightly
yeah.
more alert. Um, that does not necessarily mean they don't get a disease if the pathogen is
Mm,
there. I mean, no matter how healthily we eat, sometimes we might catch a flu. Same goes with the fish. Um, so improving the general health and the immunity of the fish is a good thing. The question is how can you make a product out of it? So what's the value proposition here? How do we measure increased immunity
mm,
if it's not a cure for a disease? I mean, you could do that in many ways. Just taking better care of the fish, having less fish in the tank, having giving them a bit better food, that those all of those things might improve their immunity.
But that is still a little vague.
It's a bit vague. I mean, antibiotic kills the bacteria. It's quite a straightforward way of dealing with the problem. But sort of boosting immunities in general. In general, I do not like the word boosting.
Why?
In any descriptions, because if you boost something, it means you increase or improve, and quite often that is incremental. And sort of in order to justify a great startup case or disruptive technology, you need to change things, like dramatically flip them, sort of a step change instead of boosting or improving things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But let's see further. I mean, let's see where this is going.
Towards the foundations. How do they produce it? Now they're getting more into detail about the how.
All right.
Protein selection, optimization, fermentation, and preventive treatment.
So yeah, sure. There are proteins that interact with the immune system. They have probably figured out, identified some of them. You can engineer them a bit. That creates solid IP actually, so that's good. If they are novel proteins, if they're something that is unknown for others, and especially if you do some optimization, change the structure of protein a bit before you produce it, that might create some nice IP. So protectability. If you only would give I don't know, carrot juice for the fish, it might in a way improve their immunity, but if it's something generic, then it's not much to protect that IP with. But here it seems that there is solid tech in the sort of core of this that might provide good protectability. Fermentation, yep, that's how you produce proteins, and then the picture is a bit vague. I mean, do you inject it or do you add it in their feed? Could be either or.
That is a very good point.
Adding it to the feed is easier. Yeah.
That is a very good point. And if we go now towards, the product, what they really have over here is that, they have oral administration. No withdrawal period.
Okay.
And boosts natural.
Okay. Through antimicrobial peptides. There you go. So that's the stuff. That's the protein. That makes sense. I mean, yeah, injection would be a bit. It's that's tough work if you have a lot of fish. So just mixing it in their feed is good. The question is how this boosting is the question mark here. How much does it boost it? Is it a radical difference?
Okay.
Remain still,
and that is the main thing that you're now pondering in your thought process.
Yeah. How big of a difference does this make? How big of a problem does it solve for the fish farmer? Does this mean that they will never again need to use antibiotics?
True.
Does this mean that they will never again get a certain disease that they would otherwise have often? Or does this mean that, there is 5% less chance they get the disease in their farm?
I hear you. So that you would prefer to see that at the very beginning, so you would be able to get that question answered as soon as possible.
Exactly. So we don't know yet if this company is something. If they have this idea, if they have sort of some proof of concept, they have identified some antimicrobial peptides that they want to, start from there, or whether they have already some data from some tests on animals on how.
And I
how
think that this might be building up towards that, and that they're building up the intrigue in order to answer that question. But normally, would you prefer to see that earlier or ready?
I mean, let's see what we're getting, but I prefer having, especially you're presenting your case to investors that are somewhat knowledgeable about the space, at least in general, and getting the concrete problem right there to start with, and this concrete solution right there to start with would be good. Good.
Now we don't go towards validation. Yeah.
Now we get there. Yeah.
They have done their trials against the most important pathogens, independently carried out in Chile by for its synergy with vaccines.
Synergy. So this would be used with vaccines. So not instead of vaccines or antibiotics, but together. Mm-hmm. 2 bacteria, 80% of
Infections.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah. But two bacteria, so 2 pathogens that this
Mhm.
works against. Ooh, okay.
And then hear more about survival rates in fish tanks only using Aquit.
Okay, so here we have it. So hold on, survival rates in fish tanks only using this in comparison to. So there's 2 different pathogens.
Mm-hmm.
With the other one, the survival rate is 85, and the other one is 50. Now, question is, what's the survival rate without using Aquit?
So you would like to
I
see that
mean, it
comparison, like
seems
they could
that
be put into the same slide, the comparison of these
Exactly.
information next to into, let's say,
Yeah, I mean, now without knowing the disease, very, I'm not really familiar with the fish disease, but this Denasi baculum, if the survival rate is at 85% with the product, is it 80%
Yeah.
without the product? Which, so it's not really impressive. I mean, if half of the fish die with the product, that's quite
Yeah.
bad, right? With the other pathogen. So it's not really solving the whole problem. It still half of the fish die. But
let's move on.
let's see where this
Efficacy,
goes.
antiviral, antibacterial, intestinal health, immunity, oral formulation again.
The lab.
Then better yields, survival rates, health and growth plus yield, compared to standard practices.
So they say it's better. Not
How?
quantifying that.
And towards next steps. Okay, so they now they're jumping into scale up production, validate oral formulation in the sea.
In the sea. Okay, so they have probably tested this in tanks. So on land, you grow small fish, for example, the baby fish. But they haven't really validated this in the sea yet, so in the larger cages. Yeah.
And then they're
problem.
now trying to go towards talking about their scalability, about their platform, and the new products that they could be adding on. Developing an AI platform to identify proteins to improve productivity and immunity in other species as well.
Yeah, so there's the AI. There's the compulsory AI that you need to put in these decks nowadays. I mean, we do work a lot with biotech companies. I haven't seen yet the very efficient use of AI, or where it would actually make a huge difference in practice yet.
Maybe they have it. Maybe
they
have it. They are now opening up this intrigue into the hot topic of the day. But in a way, then they tried to go even further about demonstrating their projections.
Salmon in Chile, salmon Norway, Canada, USA, on land, tilapia, shrimp. Okay, so plan, I suppose, is to sell this as dietary supplement. So not as drug, but as a supplement. So not to treat a disease, but to generally improve the health of the animal.
Yes.
Right.
And then they go towards basically the market that they are trying to attack.
In general, so these sort of these top-down market sizing numbers, I'm not a huge fan. I quite often just browse through because, if it's about aquaculture, we know that the market is
Yeah.
massive. We know that there's huge problems with disease there. So I don't really care. I mean, for a startup, it's big
Anyway,
enough
just to
market
go
anyway.
after it.
I don't care if it's 3 billion or 2 billion or 1 billion or 10 billion market. It's
Yeah.
big enough. So I much rather see some bottom up calculations.
For that. Yeah.
Yeah, these top down is not really.
And then they have like, like as everybody else, a solid team that you have to have, especially in deep tech products, that they're building up, and then they are sharing, of course, some of the milestones that they have and about their future roadmap. But we don't need to get now too deep into that. But because the purpose is to be able to get the overall first glimpse into your mind.
Yeah.
So overall, as a summary from the first deck, what did you think? And what still remains unanswered, perhaps?
Unanswered, maybe like, it seems there's solid tech here, so that's intriguing and exciting. There's a massive problem to solve, so there's a lot of really good ingredients here that are clear from the deck. What would be important is to sort of quantify the benefit, or quantify the benefit that the product delivers. I mean, there were some numbers, but a bit unclear what that 85 and 50% was
Correct.
in comparison to what. So what's the actual benefit for me as a fish farmer to use this product? Sorry to say it like this, but just improving the health of the fish is not really in the interest of the farmer. I mean, they don't care. It's basically what's under the line. And if they can improve the yield, that is
the main thing that you would focus on that deck.
If you can reduce the mortality, show me a number, quantify that somehow. Then we have a number of the value for this. But sort of boosting something, improving something is sort of not really tangible.
Versus the yield, and if you increase the bottom line.
Exactly. So it's the one slide where we had these 85% and 50%, those survival rates. That would be the important piece of information, but it was a bit unclear how did they get to the numbers? What would that compare in comparison to?
Cool.
How did you get there? So that would be important to know for an investor.
Good. And but like overall, and that's why it's like, okay, if you believe in the science and get this level of intrigue, well, then a lot of the times, you have to dive deeper into these topics while talking to the team.
I mean, this would be based on this deck, I would definitely set up a call and ask some questions.
And ask that, and to drive, as a scientist as you are, and now turn investor, you would you need to know what's happening there. So it's
show me the data, then we will be talking.
But that is also a healthy sign in a way. Is like if the deck is able to raise the intrigue level into such a high level that you want to get answers to certain things, and you're pondering that in your mind. That's a better thing than just you don't have any other thoughts.
Yeah. In general, sort of this deck started with antibiotic resistance being a problem, and that those 1 million, and I assume that's actually humans, because there would be fish, it would be a very small number. So instead, I mean, because it's a very, very sort of industry specific stuff they're doing, maybe they should start with a concrete problem of the fish industry. So they mentioned these 2 pathogens that they have tested it with. How big of a problem are those? How much fish are those pathogens killing? How much of a financial problem is that? Starting with, there is 500 million loss every year for the salmon industry in Chile because of these pathogens. Antibiotics don't work. We have a solution.
Absolutely.
Maybe instead of starting with that sort of very broad and generic, humanity has an antibiotic resistance problem. Sure, but we're talking about fish industry here. So customers, fish industry, they don't really care about human antibiotic resistance, do they?
True.
So
True. Good points. Now let's jump into the next deck of the day from Colombia. A company called Superfrutti. It's going to be a completely different niche that they're
Ha.
attacking. It's basically connecting farmers with business owners through technology. They're highlighting, let's say, immediately a founder with the previous exit. Oh, pretty good to bring up immediately, and that they have some validation that they're highlighting. But let's now start with the problem. Customer nightmare. Mrs. Maria.
Well, starting with that
Exactly.
story.
Maria, the owner of a neighborhood store, has to get up at 3 a.m. to take a taxi and go to the marketplace to buy goods. She has to pay for a vehicle to transport the goods and a person to load them. This costs her $400 and 100 hours each month. Well, yeah.
So these are very, I would say, very specifically Colombian problem. Now, me, sitting in Northern Europe, it's a very different supply chain
Yeah.
for fruits and fresh. It's very, very different. So this is obviously far from the sort of everyday life that I'm living. But seems there is an obvious problem, and seems the founders know it very intimately.
That is true.
And that's
then
good.
the story continues about Mr. Juan. An avocado farmer has to sell his product in his town to an intermediary who will then sell it to another intermediary who will sell it to the marketplace where Maria shops. Mr. Juan received 40% less than what Maria paid for the product. Okay. Started with Maria, now go to Juan. Demonstrates the process on the first two slides. And you not coming from Latin America, from Northern Europe, you're following the journey?
I mean, these are very, yeah, I'm still following. These are very, very sort of typical problem in many parts of the world. The first miles of the supply chain are tricky. Farmers are small. Retailers, sort of these small markets. What was the name of it
Maria.
firstly? Maria,
Yes.
I suppose. There's a lot of Maria selling fruit to the consumers, and in between there's this intermediaries, and it's sort of a messy supply chain. Far from efficient.
True.
A very
And
clear
from there,
problem, yeah.
they jump into what they're going to do about it. So, they have an app getting everything they need. The business owners and logistics systems
That's a lot.
for deliveries in very fast timelines, to contact with farmers and use of technology to improve communication.
Mm-hmm. In general, I'm not a huge fan of as such. So there's a lot of different solutions for connecting, sort of appifying the supply chain, whatever part of it. But it's true, a lot of these supply chains are not digital yet, and they maybe should be more.
And specifically the supply chains, let's say starting from the very beginning of the supply chain. Here in Latin America, it's very cumbersome, the process of even documenting any information or doing anything. So here compared to, let's say, Finland, where you're sitting right now, is like there's a lot of things to be done that are also different than in Finland by itself. And then towards the business model, they're trying to come now after the problem, and the solution that they're doing is to demonstrate that they're making things happen, not only talking.
Oh, this looks like they're selling already. Actually, this is a bit unclear. So they say they don't have an inventory. So is this an app, or are they actually buying and selling? There is $600,000 roughly worth of sales.
Yes.
Sales go up, margins go up. So 500K sales. So what are they selling? That's the interesting part. Are they selling avocados or kiwi fruits or a service?
So that is still unknown.
Yeah.
So at least they're selling something, and they're selling something quite well, to be frank. Over 500K on monthly sales. Yes.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
They're getting somewhere, but still a bit unclear. What is that? Is that mangoes or avocados or software?
May okay, maybe we get there a little bit later, but now they're still focusing on their numbers. They're break even,
Mm,
and again emphasizing that the margins will grow the faster they um,
yeah,
are able to scale up. Mhm. Then
yeah,
towards the
for
market
sure.
as well, like you mentioned earlier, like in the last tech, that you're not the biggest fan
Oh,
of
yeah.
the market slides overall.
Yeah, it's a big there's a lot of fruits going around Latin America. Sure. I mean, and a lot of sort of smallholder farmers. I mean, it's a lot of small farms. Obviously, there are huge ones as well, but many of the farms are very
Yeah.
small, and they don't necessarily have the logistics in place. So then it's really, one hand from one hand to another. So I guess this would be, it's a guess. I guess this company would be serving the
Mhm.
smaller farms. I assume.
Mhm. Then after that, they're focusing a little bit on their competition, um, and making some comparisons
Mhm. Portfolio of fruits. So more than 200 different kind of
and
fruits. Is that?
vegetables. Yes,
That's a lot.
it's very extensive.
Yeah, we get like here up in the north, we get like 5 different kinds of fruits,
That is true.
and envy you guys there.
And especially in Colombia, where the company's
So
founded, like the
lower,
fruits are phenomenal, and the juices made out of their fruits are
yeah,
just incredible. So they're living in a fruit paradise.
yes, yes, indeed. So delivery time, so 7 to 12 hours. I mean, it's. I mean, it starts to sound like they are purchasing the fruit from the farmer and delivering that to the consumer or restaurants or supermarkets. I don't know yet.
Okay.
So sort of the process is still a bit unclear.
Mhm. And then, but then they also make even further on these comparisons about the ripeness. Okay, they have an app and the purchase
Mm,
history, but still
supermarket.
okay. And now back to traction.
Yeah,
Okay, 300 million sales since day one, over 1,000 customer serves, over 30,000 orders
yeah.
fulfilled,
Most of the
and
customers.
monthly sales
Who are the customers?
are extensive.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it
It
looks
looks
great,
good. Looks good.
absolutely, and then getting like validation about corporate clients.
Corporate clients. Here we go. So it sounds like these are so Marriott is buying their fruits through
Mhm.
this. So the guys at Marriott do not need to go to the local marketplaces to buy the avocados, but they can make an order through the app or online, and then this company gets the fruit from
Yeah, or
the
if it's like
farmers.
that, and then it's pretty
I
solid
assume.
in a way. This is our also
Yeah.
very good slide. I don't know what you think, but it just demonstrate okay, that they have big guns buying, and the monthly volumes can be great.
I mean, the Marriotts and the Hiltons are good. I don't really know the local companies. I mean, there's a couple of big global players, so that's good. Um,
And then they go towards their projections again, focusing on their numbers. Um, the numbers have been relatively solid up to date, and now demonstrating where they are even heading.
so they are operating in Bogota and
Yes.
Medellin now. No,
Now in
yeah,
Bogota, the
now in
next step is
Bogota.
Medellin, and then city number three.
Like, it's like one big city. What they're making 500,000 a month
I think
in
that
one
it
city.
was not 500,000. If I go back into the slide, it was when they reach 500,000 a month, then the margin will be that. But now, currently, if we look at 22 numbers, they
Hold on,
were that
that was
was
22.
800,000. So we don't have the 23 numbers, but anyway, they are only doing in Bogota very good business.
1,000,000, almost 1,000,000
Exactly.
sales. Wow.
And
Okay,
3 million
that's
plus sales since day one
hold on.
in Bogota only, if we understand correctly. Well, they're demonstrating this pretty well, I
That
have to say.
that's pretty solid. Yeah.
For for
Impressive.
for this stage of the company, hold on, what were they raising again? We have a seed allocation. Well, yeah, seed stage, at least in the Nordics, who are making this much sale are rare.
That Yeah, I wouldn't raise money if I would be making that much
But maybe they need that to open up
revenue. I
new
mean,
cities and be
why?
able to acquire bigger market share,
Maybe, yeah.
and so on. But then they go towards the team,
But see,
demonstrating
yeah,
a couple of the founders over here, CEO and CMO. But so overall, your thoughts
really.
now from
Yeah.
Superfrutti.
My question is how. I'm still, the one slide was missing there. How does this actually work? So, sort of describing the operations of this company. There was a picture of an app, so we know there is an app involved here. But sort of reading between the lines, we can figure out that they're actually selling fruit. Fruit is in the picture as well.
Yeah.
So it's not only making the connection between buyers and sellers, but it's also actually, moving fruit around. So how does that work, and how do the transactions work? Who pays and for what? And is it their own cars that go around picking fruit from the farmer, and sort of somehow picture of the operations? Very good numbers, impressive numbers. But so it's hard to put the numbers in context when you don't
Yeah,
know what's
exactly.
actually
But
happening
maybe
here.
that's the point, is like they want to,
Yeah,
on purpose, they left it a little bit, more narrower. So then you're going to be like, what the heck is going on?
yeah.
Are these numbers really true? And how do you do this? And then you're going to book a call, and actually, like, already going into the meeting with the mindset is like, who the heck are you? Like, this is, so it's like you're,
Yeah.
it could be smart from their side as well, is that they're able to raise the level of
That can,
intrigue into such high level that you want to take the call, because that's the main point of the, like,
that's,
if you would see this
that can,
blind, is that you can get
yeah.
excited, and then you actually go and ask questions.
But it's also if if I don't get something, I feel a bit stupid. I might feel a bit like, why am I not getting
Ah,
this? And it doesn't really encourage to contact, and me admitting that I didn't really get what you do, so please tell me. So it's always maybe it's always good if whoever reads the deck kind of gets it,
yeah.
so they get a feeling that, aha, I get how this works, and then they're still intrigued
And so, what
to
are the
contact
points that
you.
you would say, like, when you're
Um,
looking at the vast amount of decks that you are scrolling through with your team? What are the things that want to make you contact and talk more to the founders?
I think
Because, like, you've had a meeting maybe, and then they to send you the deck, met them in an event, or they just blindly comes through a reference that, hey, read this through. What are the things that makes you want to speak to the founders?
I think I think the if there needs to be one thing, it's a very precise description of a problem. I mean, if you can describe a problem in the aquaculture industry to me
Yeah.
in one slide, so saying that, you see, here's a problem, an unmet need, um, and we have a solution to that, then I'm
Ah.
excited. Uh,
So one
and
slide, that's it.
here,
That's all you need. One slide. So it's like a
I
message for
mean,
Team
yeah,
Aquit over there.
I,
None of the founders. So message for you, just one slide, and Lauri is gonna book a call with you.
I mean, I don't. It's great if you have a solution. I like solutions, but it's even better if you can describe the problem really well. So that shows that you understand the industry, you understand the
Yeah,
customer. If you can describe the problem in a really crisp, short way, and clearly defined. So, I don't care if you can solve antibiotic
yeah,
resistant problem, because it's too big of a problem for anyone to solve. But if you can describe that one piece there, the specific disease in Chilean salmon and the size of it, then I'm intrigued. That shows that first of all that there is a problem, but it also shows that you understand the industry. You understand what the
absolutely,
problem there
absolutely.
is. And in this fruit deck, sort of telling the story was actually brilliant, because it is people who need to go
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
buy the fruit and sell the fruit. Then again, it seemed later on in the deck that is actually the sort of industry that they work with. So the Hiltons and Marriotts. So would it be sort of nice to hear, what's the problem you solve for Marriott?
Absolutely,
What's their problem?
absolutely. Hey, thanks,
Right.
Lauri, for your time and for your insights. We were able to get a little glimpse into an investor from the Northern Europe and his thought process. Highly appreciate your presence today in the show. Thanks.